I have a very unpopular opinion on apartment style condos here in Calgary because I think that they're a terrible long-term investment, and I'm gonna show you the data to back it up. We start here. This graph goes over 19 years of sales history of Calgary apartments. The blue line tracks the number of active listings and the green line the average closing price. I circled the last two highs that we had in 2008 and 2014. Apartment prices are up almost 15% in 2 years. So why haven't we passed those previous highs? We have to rewind almost to a decade ago. In 2014, Calgary began construction on 17,000 housing units, including 6,700 apartment style condos. A year later, we posted another 13,000 housing starts. Then something terrible happened. Crude oil prices fell 53% below levels in 2014, and they were at the lowest level since 2009. Downtown Calgary started to look like a ghost town. Some were forced to sell their homes and move. Others chose to hold on and rent those homes out. Inventory doubled, prices dropped, rents dropped, but homes were still under construction and stayed empty. Apartments accounted for over half of the housing surplus, and there were large clusters of new, unsold homes in the south. At one point, there were over 450 new built homes unoccupied that just sat on the market and didn't sell. Needless to say, Calgary struggled for a while. Our prices trended down for 7 years, so if you would have purchased a home back in 2014, you most likely would have lost money all the way up until 2021, where we saw lower rates and a lot of migration to Alberta. But for the first few years of my career, almost every single listing presentation consisted of me telling sellers that they were gonna lose money on their home, but how they were gonna make it back on the purchase because that seller has lost more in relation to their home. It wasn't a fun time. Now back to 2023. Sales are up and prices are up. The entire province is doing well, but why are people still losing money on their apartments? Number one, poor construction and poor financial planning. Here's a great example. We sold this unit a few years ago when about 50% of the apartments weren't selling and months of inventory was through the roof. We sold this unit in the 470s, and at the time, condo fees were $566 a month. That unit sold earlier this year after sitting on the market for almost 9 months for 12% below what they paid, and the condo fees were up $200 a month, not to mention a very large special assessment. This isn't a one-off either. There's tons of buildings in Calgary that I've researched or looked at with my clients where the special assessments have been from $1,000 to well over $50,000, depending on what the assessment or levy was for. Before I continue, let me explain what a special assessment is. Typically, a portion of the monthly condo fees goes towards the association's reserve fund, basically a rainy day fund for large expenses like paving, re-roofing, replacing water heaters, exterior painting, or hallway flooring. Unexpected expenses still happen. Every once in a while, something big gives out early, like a roof or an elevator, and homeowners insurance may not cover the costs. If your association's reserve fund is low or depleted, when this happens, you and other homeowners are gonna need to pay a special assessment. In some cases, assessments are added to the monthly condo fees in small amounts until the debt's paid off, but in other cases, the assessment is a one-time charge that must be paid by each homeowner as a lump sum. If you live in a well-run condo association, your community should have enough cash set aside in the reserve fund to cover emergency repairs, but not all management companies are good. There are a few factors that impact the reserve fund. We've seen a lot of rushed or poor quality builds where the association has to sue the builder or the developer. And this could take years, if not decades, to settle. And in the meantime, the owners need to pay for the repairs and hope to see the money come back once a settlement has been reached. When you're looking for a condo insurance policy, it's super important to look for one that covers special assessment dues. Not all insurance is the same, so you need to review the contract and make sure that everything aligns with what you need. If you're feeling uneasy about a condo and its financials, I highly recommend that you reduce your liabilities and try to get special assessment insurance or consider buying in another building. Another factor that many people don't know about is post-tension cables. If you're looking for a condo in Calgary, especially downtown, you may have come across the term post-tension cables. This was a construction style that was super common in the 70s and 80s in Calgary and was used in high-rise concrete construction condos. Steel cables inside plastic tubing are pulled at high tension inside concrete slabs to allow for more strength and overall distance. The only reason this is primarily seen in the downtown area is because it's the only place that has a lot of high-rise condos built in that era. The benefit of PTC is longer spans with no pillars, which is great for open floor plans and more windows. But over time, The cables can corrode, and this corrosion became a more common issue, and condo corporations starting to have to spend more money monitoring and repairing or even replacing the cables. Most PTC buildings are now on a monitoring schedule where qualified companies will come and check the condition of the cable and the strands on a regular basis and make recommendations. This has raised costs for the corporation and individuals to have to monitor and repair these strands. This is why you typically see much higher condo fees on buildings that have post-tension cables and also special assessments. The major downside of post-tension buildings is the financing. Majority of the lenders do not want to lend to properties that have post-tension cables. When you're writing an offer on an apartment building in this age range, it's important to ask if the property has post-tension cables and do some research. There are only a handful of lenders and one mortgage insurer that's going to lend on this property, so knowing this information ahead of time is going to allow you to go directly to them rather than waste time, go to others, and potentially not meet that condition timeline. Because it's more difficult to get financing, this limits the pool of buyers that you can sell your condo to in the future. With less demand for your type of condo, prices typically suffer. This is why you'll see a lot of 70s and 80s condos on the market that look like a pretty great deal, but when you consider the additional liabilities, higher condo fees, and less buyers in the future, it can make for a tough sale. Demand at the moment is great, inventory is low, but we're starting to see rates peak, and with bond leads coming down along with inflation, consumers are going to be able to afford more home theoretically. And when we have dozens of communities being constructed at the moment, this could increase inventory to a point that it will greatly affect your resale. Just look at this map. There are 10 communities that are still being built, and most of them still have a lot of apartment style condos. So if you're purchasing an apartment today, what is the value going to look like in 2, 5, or 10 years once all the inventory rises drastically? Apartments can serve many purposes. They're an affordable option for most families, and they allow buyers to become homeowners. This video isn't to discourage you on buying a condo, it's to educate you on the liabilities of owning an apartment, especially long term.